Have you ever sat in a meeting, looked at the person leading it, and thought, how did they ever get to make the decisions? It is a frustrating reality we all witness. Truly competent people stay in the background while those who seem reckless or shallow climb to the top. From ancient rulers like Emperor Commodus, who nearly destroyed the Roman Empire, to modern business figures who build empires on empty promises. This pattern repeats itself with alarming consistency. But what if this isn't just bad luck? What if there is a deeper, darker logic behind why incompetence often rises to power? Today we dive into the brutal insights of Niccolò Machiavelli, a thinker who didn't tell us how the world should be. He exposed how it actually is. More importantly, we will not just uncover these uncomfortable truths, but also explore practical strategies you can apply to protect yourself. Outmaneuver broken systems and build your own path to influence with integrity. This isn't another history lesson. This is a daily motivation to open your eyes, sharpen your thinking, and claim control over your future, no matter how chaotic the environment around you becomes. Stay tuned, because in the next sections you will learn not only why incompetence thrives, but exactly how you can recognize it, resist it, and rise above it. If you have ever felt frustrated watching the wrong people win, this might be the most important mindset shift you make all year. Let's get started. Why incompetence rises to power. A truth Machiavelli understood. Niccolò Machiavelli never wrote to comfort people. He didn't dream of a perfect world where the wisest and most capable always came out on top. Instead, he dissected power for what it truly is, a brutal, often ugly game, where appearances matter more than reality. Machiavelli understood something that remains painfully true even today. The masses judge by what they see, not by what actually is. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are, he wrote. And in that simple, brutal sentence he revealed why the world so often elevates the loud, the reckless, and the hollow, while the capable stay buried in the background. In every corner of history and modern life, we see this truth play out. From corporate boardrooms to political offices, it is not always the smartest or the most ethical who rise. It is those who understand that perception, not substance, drives influence. True intelligence comes with complexity. Intelligent individuals see shades of gray where others see black and white. They second-guess themselves while others project unwavering confidence. They raise difficult questions while others shout easy answers. And in a world that craves certainty, those who deliver simple promises, even if they are lies, often win over those who offer nuanced truths. Think about it. When the room is on fire, do people instinctively follow the quiet analyst who says, "There are multiple factors we need to consider," or do they rush after the one who screams, "Follow me, I know the way"? Human psychology is hardwired to favor the latter. It's not a failure of intelligence, it's a survival instinct that ironically opens the door for incompetence to take the lead. Machiavelli didn't just point out this grim reality, he hinted at why truly intelligent and capable individuals often struggle with power. They are slowed down by self-awareness, ethical hesitation, and the ability to see too much complexity. Meanwhile, those less burdened by insight charge ahead, offering the certainty and simplicity that human crowds crave. This is not about right or wrong, it's about understanding the battlefield you're standing on. And here's a truth that should shake you awake if you aspire to make a difference, if you want to lead with integrity. Recognizing these dynamics isn't optional, it's survival. You cannot afford to naively assume that competence alone will elevate you. In a world shaped by perception, you must learn to master the art of strategic visibility. You must learn to communicate clarity without oversimplifying truth. And most importantly, you must resist the temptation to retreat into quiet frustration when the loud and incompetent seem to triumph. This is your daily motivation. Competence matters, but in a noisy world, it must be paired with presence, decisiveness, and the ability to inspire confidence. Otherwise, your talents risk being buried under the roar of those who have far less to offer but infinitely more willingness to seize the spotlight. As we move forward, We will break down how specific psychological biases, historical patterns, and structural systems feed this paradox, and more critically, how you can equip yourself not to be a victim of it, but to navigate and rise above it with wisdom and strategy. Stay locked in. The uncomfortable truths Machiavelli exposed are not warnings to fear. They are tools to wield. When intelligence becomes a liability, we often grow up believing that intelligence is the ultimate advantage, that the smartest will naturally rise, lead, and be recognized. But Machiavelli and modern psychology reveal a far more unsettling truth. Sometimes intelligence is exactly what holds you back from power. Not because the world doesn't need intelligent leadership, but because human nature doesn't always reward it. The smarter you are, the more complexity you see. And the more complexity you see, the harder it is to offer the kind of bold, simple certainties that people crave when they are anxious, afraid, or looking for someone to follow. Genuinely intelligent individuals are burdened with nuance. They see all sides of a problem. They recognize that most solutions come with trade-offs. They are aware that they could be wrong, that the future is uncertain, that decisions have consequences. In short, they hesitate not because they are weak, but because they are honest with reality. Meanwhile, those with less insight feel none of that weight. They stride forward with absolute confidence, selling the illusion of certainty that people are biologically primed to trust. Scientific research backs this up. A controversial study in the Journal of Management suggested that intelligence correlates with leadership effectiveness, but only up to a point. Beyond an IQ of about 120, the relationship starts to reverse. Those with higher intelligence often struggle to communicate their ideas simply enough for the average person to grasp, leading to disconnection, misunderstanding, and ultimately exclusion from leadership roles. In a world where clear messaging and mass influence matter more than internal brilliance, subtlety becomes a handicap, not a strength. History offers us brutal examples. Socrates, arguably one of the greatest thinkers of all time, was sentenced to death by his fellow citizens because his relentless questioning and refusal to offer simple answers made him deeply unpopular. Meanwhile, history is filled with populist leaders who thrived precisely because they promised simple solutions to complex problems. Leaders who claimed certainty where none existed, and in doing so won the hearts and minds of the masses. This isn't just ancient history. Look around today. Political campaigns, corporate movements, social trends. They are dominated by figures who speak in absolutes, who frame every issue as black or white, good or evil, us versus them. The more complex the world becomes, the more people crave simplicity. And in that craving, they become vulnerable to confident incompetence. Intelligence, with all its gray areas and careful considerations, struggles to compete with the loud, unwavering certainty of the mediocre. But recognizing this truth does not mean giving up. It means adapting. If you are someone who sees nuance, if you are someone burdened by deeper thinking, understand this: your intelligence is a weapon, but only if you learn how to wield it strategically. You must master the art of communication, not just comprehension. You must learn to translate complexity into clarity without dumbing down the truth. You must present your knowledge not as a stream of endless caveats, but as actionable insight delivered with calm, grounded confidence. This is your daily motivation. Raw intelligence is not enough. Wisdom lies not just in knowing what is true, but in knowing how to make truth accessible and compelling to those who need to hear it most. Machiavelli didn't despise intelligence. He understood that for it to matter, it had to be paired with strategic presentation. He knew that leaders must guide human nature, not simply resent it. In the next part, we will dive deeper into the dangerous psychology that makes overconfidence look like competence, and why so many people mistake noise for leadership. Stay sharp, because the more you understand the enemy, the stronger you become. The dangerous illusion of confidence. Confidence is a powerful weapon. It moves rooms, secures positions, wins elections, raises billions of dollars, and often blinds us to the reality behind the mask. Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. In a world where appearance often matters more than substance, the bold, the loud, and the supremely certain hold an almost magnetic pull over the rest of us. And that magnetism, more often than not, has little to do with competence. Modern research confirms this uncomfortable truth. The Dunning-Kruger effect, first described by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, shows that those who know the least often believe they know the most. Their ignorance shields them from self-doubt. Meanwhile, those who are truly knowledgeable see the complexities, the gray areas, and the exceptions, and as a result, they hesitate. They express uncertainty. They second-guess. And tragically, that humility, the mark of true expertise, makes them seem weaker to the untrained eye. In leadership studies, overconfidence consistently emerges as a predictor of who rises to power, not competence. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology revealed that people who displayed high levels of overconfidence were more likely to be seen as leaders regardless of their actual abilities. In other words, when forced to choose people, trust the one who sounds sure of themselves, not the one who actually knows what they are doing. History gives us no shortage of examples. George Armstrong Custer, a man whose supreme confidence led to one of the most disastrous defeats in U.S. military history, rose rapidly through the ranks precisely because he projected unshakable certainty. In the world of business, Adam Neumann, the founder of WeWork, dazzled investors and employees alike with visionary rhetoric even as the foundations of his empire crumbled beneath him. Masayoshi Son, despite catastrophic investment losses, continued to attract billions through the sheer force of his belief in his own narrative. Confidence, not competence, drives initial success. And because our brains are wired to shortcut judgment using confidence as a proxy for ability, we often don't realize the mistake until the consequences become impossible to ignore. But this isn't just about high-profile disasters. It plays out in everyday life. In workplaces, the loudest voice in the room often steers decisions. In politics, the candidate who promises the moon, not the one who carefully explains the costs and trade-offs, usually wins. In social movements, the most passionate voice often drowns out the most reasoned one. Machiavelli would not have been surprised. He understood that people are moved more by appearances than reality, more by hope than by hard truths. Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, he wrote. What matters is not what you build in private, but what you project in public. This understanding leads to a brutal realization if you want your competence to matter. If you want your insight to have influence, you cannot afford to appear uncertain. You must master the art of projecting calm, grounded confidence. Not arrogance, not bombast, but a steady certainty rooted in deep preparation. It is not enough to know the path, you must walk it like you know where it leads. This is your daily motivation. Real power does not belong to those who merely have the answers. It belongs to those who can make others believe they have the answers. And belief is born from certainty, from the way you hold yourself, speak your words, and claim your space. Therefore, the path forward is twofold. Cultivate real skill relentlessly and learn to project belief in yourself. You must build the foundation and the facade. Strength beneath, certainty above. This is not deception. It is strategy. It is recognizing that human nature must be guided, not ignored. It is mastering the art of leadership not only in substance, but also in perception. In the next part, we will explore how incompetent leaders entrench themselves once they seize power, and why it becomes so hard to remove them, even when the damage becomes visible. Stay focused. Understanding the tactics of entrenchment is key if you ever hope to disrupt them. How incompetent leaders entrench themselves. Winning power through confidence is only the beginning. The real game. The darker, more dangerous game begins once an incompetent leader takes control. Because the shocking truth is this: they rarely hold power by accident. They actively shape their environment to protect themselves, even if it means sacrificing the very organizations, institutions, or nations they lead. Machiavelli saw it clearly centuries ago, and today the patterns are even sharper, even harder to ignore. The first tactic incompetent leaders use is surrounding themselves with even weaker subordinates. Machiavelli wrote, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Weak leaders fear being outshined. They don't promote talent. They promote loyalty. They choose advisors not for wisdom but for obedience. They value yes-men over truth-tellers." Over time, this creates an echo chamber where bad ideas go unchallenged and mediocrity becomes the norm. You've seen it happen in companies where innovation dies because questioning leadership is seen as betrayal, in governments where cronies replace competent officials, in communities where the loudest voices drown out thoughtful conversation. Once loyalty becomes the primary currency, competence suffocates. And once incompetence sets into the foundation, it becomes almost impossible to root out. Meanwhile, chaos becomes a tool. Instead of creating stability, incompetent leaders manufacture constant crises. They overwhelm critical thinkers with noise. They flood the environment with scandals, distractions, and emotional triggers. They know that in chaos, people don't seek wisdom. They seek authority. They don't ask deep questions. They look for someone who sounds like they have answers. Machiavelli warned of this tactic when he wrote, "The vulgar crowd is always taken by appearances, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar." He wasn't insulting ordinary people. He was acknowledging human nature. We are wired for cognitive shortcuts, and in times of fear and confusion, the boldest liar often beats the honest messenger. This is your daily motivation. Do not underestimate the staying power of incompetence once it seizes the levers of influence. Do not assume that failure will automatically expose it. Do not believe that the truth alone will prevail without effort, strategy, and persistence. If you want to change these systems, if you want to protect yourself from them, you must learn to see the tactics as they unfold. You must stay calm while others panic. You must sharpen your critical thinking while others chase outrage. In the next part, we will break down the structural environments that either fuel incompetence or reward true merit, and how you can recognize which kind of system you're operating in before it's too late. Stay alert. Your future influence depends on it. Designing systems that reward competence, not confidence. If incompetence rises and thrives so easily, does that mean all hope is lost? Absolutely not. Machiavelli, despite his reputation, did not advocate for despair. He believed that understanding harsh truths was the first step to building better systems, systems that could resist the corrosive pull of appearance over substance, loyalty over merit, chaos over clarity. The environments we build determine whether competence survives or dies. Some structures naturally reward skill, truth, and resilience. Others, by design or neglect, allow incompetence to harden into an unstoppable force. The first crucial factor is feedback, clear, honest, and immediate feedback. In fields like aviation surgery and engineering, failure cannot be hidden. A bad pilot cannot fake a safe landing. A careless surgeon cannot hide a mistake. That brutal clarity forces competence to the surface. Success becomes inseparable from skill. But in politics, corporate bureaucracies and entertainment, feedback is blurry. Results are delayed, distorted, or hidden. Charisma can mask incompetence for years. Failures can be spun into victories. When failure costs nothing or worse is rewarded, mediocrity metastasizes. Third, success must be defined clearly and measured honestly. Vague goals like making people happy or changing the world sound inspiring but are easily hijacked. Concrete goals, profits sustained over years, patient outcomes tracked meticulously, policies that demonstrably reduce harm force leaders to confront reality. And reality is the ultimate judge of competence. Finally, culture matters. Cultures that worship celebrities over experts, that value slogans over evidence, that punish doubt and reward empty certainty, create breeding grounds for disastrous leadership. Cultures that prize intellectual humility, rigorous thinking, and ethical action make it harder for frauds to survive. This is your daily motivation. The game can be rigged, but you are not powerless. In your own life, you can choose which systems you engage with. You can build your own structures of accountability learning and honest feedback. You can sharpen your ability to separate noise from truth, charisma from competence, promises from proof. And perhaps most importantly, you can become the kind of leader who does not just succeed within broken systems, but helps repair them. Because when you combine strategic thinking with true skill, and when you refuse to play only by the superficial rules of a superficial game, you become dangerous to incompetence, to corruption, and to every force that thrives in darkness. In the final section, we will reflect on how to take Machiavelli's brutal insights and forge a path of integrity, resilience, and real influence in a world that desperately needs it. Stay ready. The most powerful transformation always begins when you see the world as it is and choose to build it better. The hard truths Machiavelli exposed are not reasons to despair. They are weapons for those brave enough to wield them. Incompetence may rise through confidence, but it is competence combined with